Welcome everybody to a bonus insights session with Touchpoint Group. I have our global head of AI analytics and CX strategy, Yazad Kakaria, with me, and we are doing a little bonus session focusing on NatWest, who, well, their app saw a significant decline in 2023 and really hasn't recovered yet. So, Yazad, talk us through it and maybe give us a little bit of an insight in regards to the background first, and you can take us on that journey, my friend.
Sure. Thanks, Glenn. So currently we are analyzing about 20 banks and financial institutes that operate in the UK market based on the online reviews that we receive on Google Play and App Store. And we'll be using our AI-powered analytics platform, Glenn, to convert this high volume of customer feedback into actionable insights. So we'll analyze the performance of NatWest today along with two other competitors, just to give some additional context and background. And those two would be Barclays and Nationwide. So before we go into the details, I'll just need to explain our viewers the concept of engaged customer score. So as I mentioned, we are reviewing online feedback, which is coming from Google Play and App Store. So the feedback that we consider is for those who have given us a rating along with a comment. And the reason why we do this is because this helps us understand why they have given a certain rating, and that in turn helps us to understand the strengths and weaknesses of different banks. And the performance is in the range of 1 to 5. Now, with that, as you can see on my screen, what I have in front of me right now is the engaged customer score for NatWest. So interestingly, you can see that at the beginning of 2023 over here, the performance was in the range of about 4.5 to 4.6 for NatWest. It remained steady until about June, and then we've seen a sharp decline in June and July, and there was a slight recovery in August, and then again in October we are seeing another decline. So it's been, in the last 6 to 8 months have been a bit difficult for the users of NatWest. As we can see, the score has declined. Now, what I'm going to do is now I'm going to add Barclays to this. So with Barclays, you can see that at the beginning of the year, they started off at a point lower than NatWest, but then somewhere in between, around September, they have overtaken NatWest and they have finished stronger than NatWest at the end of 2023. And we see that trend continuing in Jan 2024 as well. So with Nationwide too, we can see that the year started off at around 4.2, and then they have overtaken NatWest around June, and they continue to remain ahead of NatWest despite some setback in October as well.
For sure. So quite a turbulent ride for NatWest there, along with that declining user experience. In fact, a little bit of a turbulent ride for all of them. It's just that NatWest has experienced the inverse of the others, where they have had a significant increase in user experience and feedback, whereas NatWest just really hasn't quite recovered. So can we have a bit of a deeper look into this and get to the bottom of it?
Sure, Glenn. So what we can do is that in this session, we can focus on two main areas. One is comparing NatWest to its competitors, Barclays and Nationwide, and then just looking at NatWest and what's happened in the last 6 to 8 months with their user experience. So in order for me to move on to the next part of the session, I'm just very briefly going to introduce our viewers to the concept of foundational pillars. Now, we have analyzed over 1 million mobile banking app reviews across 100 banks. And with all that collective knowledge, intelligence, and the feedback that we've received from our banking clients, we have arrived at this framework known as the foundational pillars. So what we are essentially conveying over here is that for any mobile banking app to perform well, it needs to score well on these 4 parameters. The first one being authentication, second one design and UI, reliability and stability, and features and functionality. So these are the 4 core pillars that any banking app needs to do well on. And then there's a lot of detail within each one of these. So what we are going to be doing now is we will be analyzing the feedback of NatWest and its competitors based on these 4 pillars. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to now move on to the next visualization, which is going to talk about this. So The 4 pillars that we just saw, they appear over here at the bottom. The blue one is reliability, followed by features and functionality, design and UI, and authentication. So keeping in mind that the numbers that we see over here are pain points, in the sense any feedback coming through on these 4 pillars, we have collated the negative feedback that users have shared, and that is what we are analyzing right now. So we are looking at the January data, which is very recent. And here, straight away at a glance, you can see that Barclays and Nationwide, both of them scored much better than NatWest in Jan 2024. They have a relatively lower incidence of pain points, which means fewer customers are complaining about their experiences across these 4 pillars. On the other hand, when we look at NatWest, here we can see that the incidence is much higher. So if I look at them one by one, so reliability and stability, 1 in 5 NatWest users have complained about reliability and stability related problems, whereas in case of Barclays, it's 13, and Nationwide, it's about 11. Similarly, features and functionality, again, NatWest is higher than Barclays, but a little similar to Nationwide. Design and UI, this is one of the key areas. So here we see that the issues reported by NatWest users are almost double of what we see for Barclays and also higher than Nationwide. And similarly, authentication. Here, in fact, you will see quite a sharp difference, as both Barclays and Nationwide are in the range of 2 to 3. So 2 to 3% of their users have highlighted authentication-related issues, but that's 8% in case of NatWest. So comparatively, that's quite high. And what we also need to keep in mind is that authentication is the first step that you would take to using the app. If you can't get into the app, then any of these other things would not matter. So this plays a really important role in overall user experience. So for our benefit, let's do one thing. Let's just look at features and functionality over here. And what I can do is, if I click on this, on the right-hand side, a summary has opened up. Now, Glenn, recently we've added a feature to our platform wherein we are using ChatGPT to help us analyze and understand grassroots level data. So in this case now, what ChatGPT has done is it's looked at all the comments for features and functionality, and it has given us a brief summary of what's going on there. So in this case, we can see that in January, users have complained about biometric registration related issues, payment difficulties, check deposit problems, crashes and errors, and poor customer support received from NatWest as well. So what we can do is now, we can look at it in a different way as well. We can look at this dynamic word cloud, which also talks about the main issues that users have faced. So here we can see some of these things which we also saw in the summary, making payment, then biometric approval, and things like that. Now, so far we've seen the numbers and different themes coming up, but users can jump down and go straight to the different examples as well. So these are the comments which are a part of this features and functionality related issues that we are right now seeing. And what I can do is I can add some additional context to this by looking at the company, operating system, and the review date as well. So now this gives us more context. So these customers have been talking about features and functionality related issues for NatWest. So here it goes, I cannot make a payment, cannot make a transfer, trying to deposit a check, cannot send money, and it goes on, as you can see. It's interesting because when we develop this model through our AI-powered platform, we first look at the big or the higher level story and then dive into the comments to understand. But whereas for users doing it manually, it's the other way around. So this gets them to the higher level story much faster and quicker than someone doing it manually.
Absolutely. That's really a fantastic way of looking at it, because it's helping identify those red flags that then help direct you to the specific and the specificity in those comments that can really get you into the detail. So I'm really curious to know why NatWest's engaged customer score fluctuated so much in the last 6 or 7 months. Is that something that you can utilize Ipiphany to explain that?
Yeah, sure, Glenn. That's a very valid question, and we can definitely explain that. In fact, the beauty of any well-designed text analytics solution is that it talks to you and tells you why your score has either moved up or down. And now let's take a look at NatWest and see what happened in the recent months. So for the purpose of this analysis, what I've done is I've taken 4 critical time periods based on the app's performance. So we've taken May 2023 because the performance was at its peak, it was at 4.5, the engaged customer score. Then it dropped sharply in July to 3.7, as we can see. In October, it further dropped to 3.5. And in Jan, which is the latest data that we have, we're seeing a partial recovery and the score is at 3.8. Now, let's start with our story in terms of understanding what happened across these time periods. So in May, when the performance was at its peak, we can see the relative incidence of these pain points. So yes, so the different topics that you see over here are again pain points, and higher the incidence of these pain points, worse is the user experience. So in case of May, we can see that the incidence of the pain points have been relatively much lower. So only about 8% users faced technical issues, and about 5% users were talking about design and UI, and so on. So now what's happened in July? I'm just going to highlight July over here. So suddenly you see that design and UI over here, app being difficult to use, and confusing app. These topics have sort of shot up really in a big way, which tells us that something is definitely going on over here. Whereas technical issues is pretty much similar to what it was in May, which tells us that our focus area for this particular time period is going to be on other areas. So let's do one thing. Let's quickly look at confusing app. What's going on over here? Why is the app confusing? So to do that, I'm going to bring up this dynamic word cloud, which will give us some amount of understanding just at a glance. So let's look at the key themes that people are talking about over here. So I can see people talking about it's complicated to do something, people talking about transferring or moving money, and people talking about the latest update. I would like to weave a story around this, and my assumption is that there was an update that happened and which caused some issues with the transfer money or move money feature. So what we can do is I can straight away go and click on any of these and look at real examples. The latest version, although full of features, is so convoluted. Moving money between accounts or making payments takes twice as many screens. So there you go, Glenn. Here, now we are able to dive right at the root level and see what's going on. So with that, what we'll do is we'll move on to the next time period, which is July. In July, this was July. So moving on to October, where the score further dropped. Now, what were the key things that happened in October? So here I can see that technical issues in October have increased, and so have the features and functionality related areas. So again, I have the option of diving deeper into this and getting a detailed understanding of what's going on over there. Now, looking at January, which is our latest data, here we do see some improvement, not only in terms of engaged customer score, but also the decline in some of our pain points. So there is a marginal decline in technical issues faced by users over here, as we can see, but there is also a decline in features and functionality related pain points, which tells us that yes, it has been slightly easier for users in Jan compared to what it was in October 23. So Glenn, we've reviewed this feedback retrospectively, but our clients have real-time access to these insights, and this empowers the key stakeholders to make informed decisions to improve the app experience. And the good thing is that this is a turnkey solution, so we don't need anything from our clients. We extract the data, we manage the platform, we generate the insights, and also train all the users in Ipiphany so they can keep a tab on what's happening with their app and competition.
That is fantastic. Thanks, Yazad, and explains a lot of the reasons why NatWest users have had such a turbulent ride. Now, we've kept this session fairly focused, but there is so much more that you can explore and understand utilizing Ipiphany. We haven't even really delved into comparing app release cycles and validating those comments and that feedback that clients are using. So again, we are scratching the surface at the power of the platform. And if you'd like to have a chat to us and have a free session with us looking at your app and comparing it and benchmarking it to some of your competitors, or having a look back over time and seeing where you went wrong or those things that you've done incredibly well, feel free to sing out and we'll set up a meeting.